Hello learners, welcome to the next part of Parenterals. In this part, we shall discuss the production process involved in the manufacturing of parenterals. In this video, we shall study the different procedures in the manufacturing of parenterals. We shall focus on the sterilization techniques and the different clean room classified areas. Okay, so let us begin. So beginning with production procedure, the first step is cleaning. Cleaning of containers, closures and equipments. So usually the containers used for packaging are brought in a company from some other place. Okay, so before you fill your product in them, they have to be clean. Okay, so your equipments and the packaging system must be free from dust, debris or any chemical residue. Okay, now parenteral production requires an exclusive set of equipments. Okay, equipments dedicated for the manufacturing of parenterals only. Moreover, if a company is developing or manufacturing oncological products, that is anti-cancer products or biological products like steroids and all, separate equipments have to be used for every formulation. Okay, because cross-contamination cannot be afforded for such products. The next step is obviously product preparation. You have to prepare a product depending on the type of formulation. So if it's a suspension, you have to follow steps for a suspension. Okay. However, all of this has to happen in aseptic conditions since it's a sterile product. Now here, maintaining the stability as well as sterility of the product is very critical. Okay. The next step here is filtration. We shall discuss filtration in detail in the upcoming slide. Now, all the production procedure which are here and which we'll be studying ahead, each of them has to be validated to ensure that the process is doing what it has to do. Okay, the validation of process requires extensive and intensive effort to be successful and is an integral part of the CGMP requirements. Now coming to filtration. Now these points are important with respect to your entrance exams. Okay, so filtration is a cold sterilization process because there is no heat involved. Now the primary objective of filtration, we all know, is to clarify a solution. Okay, so filtration works in three ways. It sieves or screens the product, okay, that is removes particle down to 0.2 to 0.1 micron. Okay, it also works by entrapment or impaction. Okay, so all the particles of a size greater than the pore size of your filter membrane will be entrapped on the membrane. Okay, and another thing is it also works by electrostatic attraction. Now for filtration process, membrane filters are generally used for parenteral products. Okay, there are different types of filters. Membrane filters are used for parenteral products, and of these the commonly used membranes are enlisted here. You have cellulose esters widely used, then you have a few polymers here. Now the filter are tested for its integrity because filtration is carried out at a certain pressure, right? So you don't want your filter membrane to break at that pressure. So they have to be tested for their integrity, and this is done by either a bubble point test method or a pressure hold test method or diffusion or forward flow test method. Okay. The bubble point test is usually used for smaller filters and the pressure hold test is usually used for filters having a larger surface area. Okay, now the bubble points or the diffusion flows are characteristic for every filter. Okay, that is, it depends on the pore size of the filter, and the specifications are usually specified by the manufacturer. So once your product is prepared and filtered and once your container and closure systems are ready, then you proceed with the filling step. Now this is the most stringent step and it requires to prevent contamination. Okay, so there has to be no contamination while this process is being carried out. This is important, especially in case where the product has been sterilized only by filtration and will not be terminally sterilized in the final container. Maybe because of any reason, because if the substance is heat labile, thermolabile, or anything, so it becomes very important, and that is why it has to be filled under aseptic conditions. Okay, now filling can be carried out either by volumetric filling, that is a certain volume is filled into a container, or time pressure, time gravity dosing. Okay, and another method is by the net weight of filling. These are the three types of filling methods. Please take a note of it. After filling into the container, it is important for the container to be sealed. Okay, so this step again is important to maintain the sterility of the product. Okay, it has to be sealed so as to prevent any type of contamination. Now, sealing can be either a tip sealing method or a bead sealing, or either a full sealing method. Okay, so in tip sealing, the ampules are usually rotated around the burner. Okay, and the sealing is then carried out. In a full sealing, the ampule head is heated, and once it softens, it is pulled and sealed. Now, pull sealing is a more secure method. However, the more aesthetically appealing method is the tip sealing method. So usually in industries, tip sealing method or the bead sealing method is carried out. The next and the most important step here after sealing is the final sterilization. Let us discuss sterilization in detail. So here you see different techniques of sterilization enlisted. Let us study them one by one. The first is autoclaving, also called as a moist heat sterilization. Now it is called moist heat because steam is involved. It is as good as a pressure cooker. Okay. Now the temperature is usually 121 degrees Celsius. Now autoclaving can be used for products which are heat stable, okay, thermostable. They should not be degraded by high temperature. So liquids, solution, glass and metal can be sterilized by autoclaving. Please take a note that plastics cannot be sterilized by autoclaving method. Next is the dry heat sterilization, okay, which involves hot air oven. Now the temperature here is higher than autoclaving, which is 160 degrees Celsius. Now this can be applied to glass and metals. Okay, also certain drug products which are stable at this temperature, drug powders, okay, can be sterilized by dry heat sterilization. Now both these methods involve heat, right? And the mode of action here is coagulation of the protein. So coagulation of protein will inactivate the bacteria and thus make the product sterilized. Now there are certain products which are affected adversely by such elevated temperatures, okay, which is required for the thermal sterilization. Therefore, heat labile or thermolabile products must be sterilized by a non-thermal method, usually filtration. Okay, so all these three are non-thermal methods, and these are thermal methods of sterilization. So filtration, as we studied, it is a cold sterilization method. The pore size of the membrane used is generally 0.22 to 0.45 microns, depending on the product you are sterilizing. Okay. Now the materials sterilized by filtration are heat sensitive solutions and mostly compounds which are proteins and vitamins. And over here we know that the mode of action is it prevents the organism from passing into the filtrate, okay, but it does not allow virus, okay, it allows the virus to pass Please take a note. It allows the virus to pass. Therefore, this sterilization method is not reliable. Okay, please take a note of it, that it allows the virus to pass. Okay. Now the next method is radiation method. So it generally uses UV rays, gamma rays, at times even beta rays are used. Okay. Now this is generally for surface sterilization. Okay. For surface sterilization. It is also used for heat sensitive solids and plastics. Okay, this is important here because plastics were not being sterilized by these methods. It is sterilized by radiation only. Okay, now the mode of action here is that radiation damages the DNA and the RNA structure of the organisms, okay, even the viruses, and it affects the nucleic acids. So in this way the product is sterilized. Now the last is gaseous sterilization, okay, which involves ethylene oxide. It also involves formaldehyde to some extent. Okay. Now the mode of action is that it inactivates the enzymes here. Okay. And the materials used to sterilize by this method is plastics. Okay. Also, the rooms, the manufacturing areas are also sterilized by gas sterilization, which is known as fumigation. Now to check how well is your sterilization method actually working, how well is it impeding the growth, and how well is it killing the organisms, biological indicators are used. Okay, so they are used to prove the effectiveness of the sterilization process. Now these are the sterilization process, and these are the corresponding microorganisms used as biological indicators. Okay, so please take a note of this, it's very important. Moisty, that is autoclaving at 121 degrees Celsius, takes Bacillus stereothermophilus as its biological indicator. Also hydrogen peroxide and peracetic acid sterilization techniques requires the same bacteria. Now Bacillus subtilis variety Niger, okay, is used for dry heat sterilization as well as gaseous methods of sterilization. And radiation methods uses Bacillus pumilus as its biological indicator. Please take a note of it. Now here we've seen how the manufacturing procedure is so critical and every step is of utmost importance. It has to be carried out in a systematic way so as to prevent any contamination and maintain the sterility. So for that purpose, there are different classifications of the rooms at which these procedures have to be carried. Okay. So this is the clean room classified areas. Okay. Now the numbers, okay, are based on the maximum allowed number of the airborne particles in either cubic feet or cubic meter of particle size of 0.5 or 5 microns. Okay. Now the classification used in the pharmaceutical practice normally ranges from class 100,000, which is grade D. This is used for material support areas, okay, for storage, to class 100, which is grade A, and this is usually your aseptic areas. We discussed which steps are to be carried out in aseptic areas. Now grade A means that they should not be more than 3,500 particles per cubic meter, okay, of size 0.5 micron. Grade C means that they cannot be more than 350,000 number of particles of 0.5 micron per cubic meter. Now European standard also has to calculate the classification of the room based on the number of particles of size 5 microns. Okay, So it says that the grade A room cannot have more than 3500 particles of 0.5, and it should have 0 particles of 5 micron per cubic meter. Okay. Now the critical areas of processing wherein the product or the contact surface of the product is exposed to the environment even for little period must meet class 100 specification. Okay. Now there are certain differences between the European standards and the US standards. That is, the European system uses the alphabet grade system, whereas the US uses the number class. Also, as I said, the microbial limits are measured at for 5 microns also and for 0.5 microns also. And the European system measures it per meter cube, whereas the US measures it per feet cube. Okay. Now to achieve the standards of class 100 room, there are certain protocols which are to be followed. The first is that the air which enters into class 100 room has to be filtered by the HEPA filters. HEPA filters are high efficiency particulate air. Now the incoming air from these filters have a sweeping velocity of 100 feet per minute. Okay, so this is the speed of the air and it is pretty uniform. So what are HEPA filters? They are defined as 99.99% or more efficient in removing from the air 0.3 micron particles. So the air passing through these filters are 99.99% efficient to remove 0.3 micron particles. Okay. Now this air is usually the aseptic air. And it is supplied by the HVAC system, okay, which is the heating, ventilating and air conditioning system. So the entire system holistically is HVAC system, where the filter uses a HEPA filter. Now the class 100 area is maintained in a positive pressure. So why is it maintained under positive pressure? Is that if at all there are any cracks or crevices in the room, or if the door is temporarily opened, it prevents the outside air from entering into these areas. Okay. So the pressure in the class 100 room is more. So even though the door is open for some time, air moves from a higher pressure to lower pressure. So the aseptic air will flow out, but the contaminated air would not flow inside the class 100 room. Okay, that is the importance of it being under positive pressure. Also, the laminar airflow system, denoted as LAF or LF, help in the circulation of this air coming from HEPA. So now this laminar airflow can either be horizontal, it can either be at the benchtop level, or it can be a vertical coming from the ceiling. So that's all about production procedures involved for manufacturing of a parenteral product. I hope you all understood these concepts. Happy learning.